Raymond, an elderly man, felt lonely despite the wealth in his bank account. Although he had money, he longed for the closeness of his family, who remained distant. However, he met Emily, a 21-year-old girl, and soon promised to leave her a part of his wealth. On the day she received the will, she couldn't believe what was written. In a large country estate lived Mr. Raymond, a 75-year-old man with a discreet presence but a grand history. A widower for over a decade, he inhabited the house that was once filled with laughter and voices, now echoing only the memories. His wife, the heiress of one of the richest families in the country, had left not only a considerable fortune but also a void difficult to fill. Raymond, with his silver hair and still vibrant eyes, hid a significant part of this fortune, preferring to keep the financial details secret, even from his own children. Raymond had 5 children, all successful in their own lives but distant from him. They rarely visited, busy with their careers and families, leaving him in deeper solitude. Raymond missed the times when the house was full of young children running through the halls and family meals around the large dining table. Now, he contented himself with the daily presence of his faithful maid Marissa and his talented cook Laura. These women were more than employees. They were, in a way, his substitute family. Marissa, with her robust figure and warm smile, arrived every morning to tidy the house, knowing every corner, every piece of furniture, and every secret kept in the old drawers. Laura, a woman with a gentle speech and skillful hands, prepared his favorite dishes, offering comfort through food. Together, they filled Raymond's days with a bit of routine and human warmth. Despite all the care, the loneliness persisted. Raymond often spent hours in his study, surrounded by photographs of his late wife and children at various stages of life. He called his children, trying to connect, but almost always found only the coldness of voicemail boxes. In contrast, his grandson Peter was a bright exception. Young, dynamic, and always busy with college and work, Peter never forgot his grandfather. He always found time to call, check on him, listen to his stories, and share a bit of his own life. Peter's presence was a relief for Raymond, a ray of light breaking the darkness of his solitary days. Peter was genuinely interested in his grandfather's stories about the family's golden days, challenges, triumphs, and even the small everyday details. He was a curious, kind-hearted young man who saw his grandfather as a source of wisdom and inspiration. However, something else bothered Raymond: his hidden fortune. He constantly worried that revealing the full extent of his wealth would bring his children closer only out of interest. He wanted to believe that love and closeness couldn't be bought, so he remained silent, protecting not only his fortune but also the essence of his family relationships. Deep in his heart, Raymond dreamed of a reunion. He dreamed of the house once again filled with laughter and lively conversations, the family gathered around the table. He longed to feel the warmth of his children's and grandchildren's hugs, not out of obligation but out of true and unconditional love. While he waited, he clung to the small joys he had left, like the occasional visits from Peter, Marissa's dedicated care, and Laura's cherished memories. Despite his children's distance, Raymond remained active and present in his own life. Every morning, right after sunrise, he put on his walking shoes and strolled through the estate's gardens. It was a sacred ritual, a way to connect with the world around him and stay physically and mentally healthy. With each step, he observed the well-kept grounds, greeting gardeners and staff with a friendly wave. During these morning walks, he cultivated small friendships, exchanging stories and smiles with those who crossed his path. However, no matter how hard he tried to maintain a serene appearance, Raymond carried a silent pain, a wound that never fully healed. He wondered what he had done wrong and what could have been different to keep his children close. Despite his loneliness, he didn't succumb to despair. He maintained a disciplined routine, eating well, cultivating his personal interests, and always seeking a connection with the outside world. Raymond attended classical music concerts, finding temporary solace in the beauty of the notes and the harmony of the melodies. He also dedicated himself to reading, losing himself in fictional worlds that transported him beyond the walls of his solitary home. However, it was in the quietest moments that loneliness was most present. echoing in the empty corridors and walls that held more memories than he could bear. In these hours, he sought refuge in his study, where the photographs of his loved ones watched him silently. He gazed at the smiling faces of his children as children, trying to find some answer to their inexplicable distance. Despite everything, Raymond never lost hope. The flame of family still burned in his heart, warming him on the coldest nights. He believed that one day, the love that united his family would be strong enough to overcome any distance. While that day had not yet arrived, he clung to the comforting presence of Peter, his beloved grandson, who, despite his busy life, always found time to be by his side. Peter was his anchor in the world, his living hope that family love could overcome all adversities. A new day had just begun when misfortune struck Mr. Raymond. On a morning like any other, he headed to the garden after his morning walk. As he tended to his plants, a slip caused him to lose his balance and fall to the ground. The impact was brutal, and he felt a sharp pain shoot through his left leg. Laura, the dedicated cook, heard the thud and ran to help him. With care and affection, she helped him get up, but it was evident that something was wrong. Raymond felt an unbearable pain in his ankle, and the mere thought of trying to move seemed an impossible task. With a worried look, Laura didn't hesitate. She helped him sit down and immediately called for an ambulance. At the hospital, Raymond was examined and underwent a series of tests. The diagnosis was not as severe as initially feared. He had only sprained his ankle. Nevertheless, the fall and the pain were a painful reminder of his fragility, both physical and emotional. With a heavy heart, Raymond decided to inform his family about the incident. He called each of his children, trying to mask the worry in his voice. However, the responses he received were cold and uninterested. Some barely paid attention to the news, while others murmured a few words of consolation before returning to their busy lives. Raymond felt abandoned and desolate. The loneliness that enveloped him was almost palpable, as if it were slowly suffocating him. He wondered where he had gone wrong and why his own children seemed so distant and indifferent. The physical pain now mingled with emotional pain, forming an unbearable burden on his tired shoulders. That same afternoon, the hospital room door opened, and Peter entered hurriedly. His face was pale, and his eyes showed genuine concern. He had left work and his commitments behind as soon as he received the news and rushed to see his grandfather. Seeing Raymond lying in bed with a tired expression, Peter quickly approached, holding his hand. "Grandpa, how are you? Are you in a lot of pain? Do you need anything?" Peter asked, his voice heavy with anxiety. Raymond managed a calm smile despite the pain in his ankle and the weight of loneliness. "I'm fine, my boy. It was just a scare, and my ankle hurts a bit, but the doctors have given me pain medication. I'll be better soon." Peter breathed a sigh of relief, but couldn't help but notice the sadness in his grandfather's eyes. "I'll stay here with you tonight. Don't worry about anything. I'll take care of you." Peter's presence brought immense comfort to Raymond, who felt cared for and loved. During the night, the young grandson settled into a chair next to the bed, refusing to leave even when the nurses insisted he should rest at home. Peter's dedication was a source of joy for Raymond, a reminder that there was still someone who truly cared. While Peter slept uncomfortably in the chair, Raymond spent the night in deep thought. The pain in his ankle was a constant annoyance, but nothing compared to the emotional pain he felt at the absence of his children. He remembered the times he had sacrificed to ensure they lacked nothing, beyond the affection and love he gave each one. Now, however, he felt abandoned, as if all those efforts meant nothing. There, in that uncomfortable chair, Peter represented everything that still made life worth living. He was living proof that love still existed, even if found in only one family member. Raymond knew he couldn't change the past or his children's attitudes, but he could value and nurture the special relationship he had with Peter. The night in the hospital was long and lonely for Raymond. Peter slept in the chair beside him. Raymond kept his gaze fixed on the door, hoping that one of his other children would appear. He longed to see a familiar face and hear a voice that would bring comfort. But the night passed, and the door remained closed, with no one else crossing it. In a moment of weakness, Raymond let a few tears escape, feeling the weight of loneliness and rejection. Then, Looking at Peter sleeping uncomfortably in the chair, he wiped away the tears and found strength in his gratitude. From that day on, Raymond decided he would not let his children's absence defeat him. Instead, he would focus on what was good in his life: a wonderful and dedicated grandson who sincerely loved him. Peter's presence was a precious gift, and Raymond promised himself that he would cherish every moment with his grandson. The next morning, the doctor entered the room with a professional but sympathetic demeanor. "Mr. Raymond, I have good news. You are cleared to go home, but your ankle will need physical therapy to fully recover." Raymond nodded, relieved to be able to return to the comfort of his home. Peter quickly got up, ready to help his grandfather. "Let's go, Grandpa. I'll take care of everything." Peter took care of the discharge papers and carefully helped Raymond dress and prepare to leave. Together, they left the hospital and returned to the grand house Raymond inhabited. Upon arriving, Marissa and Laura were at the door, anxious and relieved to see him. "Thank God you're okay, Mr. Raymond," exclaimed Marissa, while Laura, with tears in her eyes, gently embraced him. Raymond smiled at his two loyal employees and friends. "Thank you, my dears. I'm better, thanks to you and Peter." Peter helped Raymond settle into his favorite armchair in the living room. The fatigue of the previous night weighed on both of them, but there was a sense of relief in the air. They knew that recovery would be a slow process, but they were determined to face it together. In the days that followed, Raymond began his recovery with the constant support of Peter, Marissa, and Laura. Since the physical therapy sessions would start the following week, each day was a step toward his goal, and every small progress was celebrated. Peter accompanied his grandfather every day, helping him with everything he needed. Between the daily care, Raymond and Peter further strengthened the bond that united them. They spent hours talking, sharing stories, and laughing. Raymond taught Peter about the family's secrets, the life lessons he had learned over the years, and Peter, in turn, brought new perspectives and energy to Raymond's life. Upon learning of the accident, Peter took a few days off work to care for his grandfather. Mr. Raymond initially protested, saying he didn't want to disrupt his grandson's busy life, but Peter insisted with a stubborn smile. "Grandpa, I want to be here. It's important to me." Raymond, moved by Peter's dedication, gave in and allowed him to stay a few days at his house. The following week, Raymond needed to take care of some financial matters. Peter, always helpful, offered to go to the credit union in his place. Trusting his grandson completely, Raymond handed over his account password and explained what needed to be done. Peter took the documents and went to the credit union, determined to help his grandfather with everything necessary. When he arrived at the credit union and accessed Raymond's account, Peter was shocked by what he saw. The account balance was astronomical, much larger than he had imagined. He knew his grandfather lived comfortably financially, but he had no idea of the true extent of his fortune. The amount was impressive, a sum that could change anyone's life. He felt a whirlwind of emotions. On one hand, he was impressed and a bit confused. On the other, he felt an even greater responsibility to take care of his grandfather. He knew that with this amount came risks and the need to protect Raymond from any ill-intentioned person. He took care of the banking matters as his grandfather had requested and returned home with the documents in order, but with a growing concern in his mind. Upon arriving home, he found Raymond sitting in the living room, reading a book. The grandfather looked up and smiled when he saw Peter enter. "Did you manage to sort everything out, my boy?" Peter nodded, but couldn't hide the restlessness in his eyes. "Yes, Grandpa, everything is resolved, but I was surprised to see the balance of your account. I didn't know you had so much money." Raymond sighed and closed the book, placing it on his lap. "I never wanted you or your uncles to know the true extent of my fortune. Your grandmother, God bless her, was the heiress of one of the richest families in the country. When she passed away, she left me a large sum, along with properties and jewelry. I feared that if your uncles knew, they would distance themselves even more, thinking only about the money. I wanted them to come closer out of love, not out of interest." Peter sat next to his grandfather, holding his hand. "I understand, Grandpa, and I know you did what you thought was best. But I also think it's important to protect what you've built, especially now. You're not alone, and I'm here to help." Raymond smiled, squeezing his grandson's hand with gratitude. "Thank you, Peter. I trust you more than anyone else. Knowing you're by my side gives me a peace I haven't felt in a long time." The next day, early in the morning, Raymond would begin his physical therapy sessions to fully recover his ankle. Early in the morning, the physical therapist arrived. She was a young girl of 21 named Emily, with a warm smile and contagious energy. She greeted Raymond with a firm handshake and started the physical therapy session with attention and dedication that quickly won over the old man. "Mr. Raymond, let's start slowly, okay? I want to make sure you feel comfortable and safe," she said after introducing herself. Raymond nodded, feeling immediately at ease with the young woman. During the session, Emily animatedly conversed, asking about Raymond's life, his experiences, and life stories. Emily showed a genuine interest in what he said, which made Raymond open up and share some of the most memorable moments of his life. Between exercises and stretches, he told details about his youth, how he met his late wife, and the joys and challenges of raising his children. "You have a very beautiful house, Mr. Raymond," Emily commented during a break. "I really like the details and the decoration. It's so cozy and elegant." Raymond smiled proudly. "Thank you, Emily. My wife had refined taste. She took care of every detail. Now, this house is a constant reminder of her love and dedication." In the days that followed, Emily returned for more physical therapy sessions. With each meeting, the bond between them strengthened. Emily made a point of asking about Raymond's interests, passions, and dreams. He, in turn, loved the company and the opportunity to share his stories and wisdom. "Mr. Raymond, have you ever thought about writing a book about your life? Your stories are fascinating," suggested Emily in one of the sessions. Raymond laughed, shaking his head. "I've never thought about it, but it's an interesting idea. Who knows, maybe one day with your help, I could put these stories on paper." Emily smiled. "I would love to help, and I'm sure many people would be inspired by your journey." The physical therapy sessions became a highlight in Raymond's days, not just because of the physical improvement he felt, but also because of the bond he was forming with Emily. She brought a new light to his routine, something he didn't realize was missing until then. Peter also noticed the difference in his grandfather's disposition. "Grandpa, I see that physical therapy is doing you good, and it seems you found a great friend in Emily." Raymond smiled at his grandson. "Yes, Peter, Emily is a charming young woman. She reminds me that there's still much to live for, much to fight for. Her visits are a real relief to my lonely soul." With the constant support of Peter and Emily's careful attention, Raymond began to see his life with new eyes. He realized that despite the absences and past pains, there was still much to be lived and shared. He decided to enjoy every moment, valuing the small joys and new friendships that arose. The days continued to pass, and Raymond gradually recovered. With each session, Emily encouraged him to take another step and reach new goals. With each small victory, Raymond felt stronger, not just physically but emotionally as well. After several sessions, Raymond noticed a special sparkle in Emily's eyes, which went beyond mere professional concern. One day, at the end of a session, she surprised him with an unexpected invitation. "Mr. Raymond, would you like to have a picnic with me tonight?" Emily asked with a soft smile. Raymond was taken aback, his eyebrows raising in surprise. "Me? An old man like me? Why would a young woman like you want to go out with me?" He was genuinely confused, feeling insecure about what Emily really wanted. Emily's smile grew warmer, her eyes filled with understanding and tenderness. "The body ages, but the spirit always remains young, Mr. Raymond. You have a vibrant soul, full of stories and wisdom. I would love to spend some time with you outside of the professional environment. Give happiness a chance." Raymond was deeply moved by the sincerity of her words. He had never considered this possibility. After a brief hesitation, he felt warmed by Emily's kindness and invitation. "Very well, Emily. I accept your invitation." That evening, they went to a cozy spot in the local park for a picnic. Raymond in an elegant suit he hadn't worn in a long time, and Emily looking stunning in a simple but elegant dress. During the picnic, the conversation flowed naturally. They laughed, shared stories, and discovered a genuine connection. Raymond felt rejuvenated by Emily's company, and she, in turn, appreciated his wisdom and charm. As time passed, their meetings became more frequent. They dined together regularly, and Raymond began buying clothes not just for himself, but also for Emily as a gesture of affection and appreciation. The two developed a deep bond, sharing secrets and dreams. Emily found in Raymond an inexhaustible source of stories and learning, while he delighted in her energy and vitality. One day, while walking in the park, Emily held Raymond's hand and looked into his eyes. "Raymond, I want you to know that what I feel for you is real. It's not just admiration or respect, it's something deeper." Raymond squeezed her hand, feeling a wave of emotion. "Emily, I also feel something very special for you. You brought a new light into my life, something I didn't expect to find at this stage." Despite the deep intimacy they shared, Raymond never revealed the true extent of his fortune to Emily. He wanted the relationship to be based on genuine feelings, not wealth. He continued to live modestly, hiding the true state of his bank account. As the relationship between Raymond and Emily blossomed, she eventually moved into his house. Raymond was radiant with her presence, feeling rejuvenated and full of happiness. However, Emily's move did not go unnoticed by Raymond's children, who began to question her intentions. One by one, they approached Emily, expressing their concerns and suspicions. They believed she was interested only in Raymond's fortune and not in him as a person. However, Raymond remained firm in his decision, defending the love he felt for Emily and his choice to have her in his life. While he deeply wished for his grandfather's happiness, Peter also found himself torn. On one hand, he saw the joy Emily brought to Raymond's life, but on the other, he understood his parents' and uncle's concerns. He wanted to believe in the true love between his grandfather and Emily, but doubts lingered in his mind. As the months passed, Raymond noticed the discomfort and tension his relationship with Emily caused within his family. He understood their concerns, but his conviction in the love he shared with Emily remained unshaken. One day, Raymond called Peter for a serious conversation. Sitting in the living room, Raymond looked into his grandson's eyes with seriousness. He took a deep breath before speaking, feeling the weight of the words he was about to say. "Peter, my boy, there is something I need to tell you, something that might shock everyone." His voice trembled slightly, but he continued with firmness. "I have decided to sell this house." Peter's eyes widened in surprise, not expecting that revelation. He looked at his grandfather with a mixture of perplexity and curiosity. "Sell the house? But why, Grandpa?" Raymond sighed, feeling the weight of the secret he carried. "I can no longer maintain this house. I can no longer sustain the lifestyle we live here. I am broke, Peter." Peter was shocked by the revelation. He knew Raymond's fortune was large, but he never imagined it was at risk. He remained silent for a moment, processing his grandfather's words. Then, with determination, he approached Raymond and held his hands. "Grandpa, no matter what happens, I will be by your side. I will help you with everything you need. Come live with me, and don't worry about money." "Thank you so much, Peter." "I don't even know what to say," Raymond replied. A few days later, Peter decided to confront the situation head-on. He posted a simple but impactful message in the family group. "Mr. Raymond has decided to sell his house and move into my apartment because he no longer has money." The news spread like wildfire, and soon all family members were at Raymond's house, with expressions of shock and concern on their faces. Raymond's 5 children immediately surrounded him, demanding explanations. "Dad, what's going on? Why are you selling the house?" asked the eldest son. Raymond took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the words he was about to say. "Children, I am broke. All the money your mother left me is gone." There was a moment of tense silence, interrupted only by muffled sounds of surprised sighs. Raymond's children looked at him, stunned, unable to believe what they were hearing. "What do you mean, Dad? How did this happen?" asked the youngest daughter. Raymond lowered his eyes, feeling the shame and sadness weighing on him. "I was not careful with the money. I spent more than I should have, invested in things that didn't work out, and now I have nothing left." The news hit the family like a bomb, leaving everyone stunned and disoriented. They looked around at the house they always considered a symbol of security and stability, now about to be sold. The reality of the situation began to sink in. and they realized that the life they knew was about to change. Raymond took a deep breath, his gaze heavy with the pain and frustration he was feeling. He faced his children with a mix of sadness and indignation. "You are here now, demanding your share of the house. But where were you when I needed you the most? When I was in the hospital, fighting to recover, only Peter was by my side. You didn't take a step in my direction, didn't visit, didn't care to know how I was doing. And now, as I am selling the house to survive, you all appear, wanting your share." There was a heavy moment of silence, the truth of Raymond's words hanging in the air like a shadow over everyone present. Raymond's children lowered their eyes, feeling the weight of their father's reproach. The eldest son was the first to break the silence, his voice full of regret. "Dad, we made a mistake. We didn't realize how much you were suffering, how much you needed us. Please forgive us." Raymond sighed, feeling the sincerity in his son's words, the love that still existed between them despite the past difficulties. With a slow nod, he replied, "I forgive you, my children, but it is important that you understand that this house is all I have now. I am selling it to live with dignity, and I hope we can find a way to move forward together as a family." Raymond's children nodded, committing to supporting their father as best they could. They knew they had made mistakes, but were determined to make things right this time. With heavy hearts, they said goodbye to Raymond, promising to return soon to help him transition to a new phase of his life. As the family dispersed, Emily, who had witnessed the entire conversation from afar, approached Raymond with worried eyes. "Raymond, what's happening? Why didn't you tell me about this?" Raymond sighed, pretending to feel guilty for not sharing the truth with Emily earlier. "Emily, I didn't want you to worry. I was trying to protect you, to protect our relationship, but now it seems I have complicated things." Emily gently placed a hand on Raymond's face, looking into his eyes with tenderness. "It's okay, Raymond. The future belongs to God. We never know what tomorrow holds." The next day, Raymond packed his belongings with care, preparing to leave the home he had lived in for so many years. While folding his clothes, a message from Emily arrived on his phone. He read it with a perplexed expression, his eyes scanning the words over and over. Emily was leaving on a sudden trip, citing the need to be with her parents. Just then, Peter entered the room, finding his grandfather lost in thought. "Grandpa, is everything okay?" Raymond sighed, feeling the weight of sadness in his heart. "Peter, I need to tell you something about Emily. I never even kissed her, and now she said she's traveling without giving any further explanation." Peter's eyes widened in surprise at the revelation. "But Grandpa, why? You seemed so happy together." Raymond shook his head, his voice heavy with sorrow. "I thought she was here for me, but now I see that all she wanted was my money. She realized I lost my fortune and preferred to leave. I just wanted someone by my side who truly loved me." Peter looked at his grandfather with compassion, feeling the sadness emanating from him. He wanted to console him but knew that words alone wouldn't be enough to heal his pain. "Grandpa, I'm sorry you're going through this, but know that you're not alone. I will always be here for you, no matter what." Raymond then revealed that he was deeply disturbed when Emily expressed her desire to be included in his will. Those words exposed her true intentions, and he was confronted with the painful reality of being used. "Can you believe it, Peter? Not long ago, she asked if I could include her in my will or make her a beneficiary of my life insurance. I should have suspected earlier." Despite the revelation, Raymond decided to keep his emotions hidden, responding with a simple yes to Emily's request. He didn't want to confront her at that moment, but kept in mind what he had just discovered. "At the time, I didn't know what to say, so I agreed, saying I would leave a special inheritance for her." "Grandpa, you can't do that," Peter exclaimed, a mix of indignation and concern in his voice. "She used you, Grandpa. You can't leave anything for her." Raymond smiled mischievously, a cunning glint in his tired eyes. "Don't worry, my boy. I have something much better planned for her." Peter was puzzled by his grandfather's enigmatic response, but decided to trust him. He knew Raymond had a plan, even if he didn't fully understand what it was. In the days that followed, Raymond left his luxurious house behind and moved in with Peter in his modest apartment. The new routine was challenging for both of them, but they soon found their rhythm. During the day, Raymond spent much of his time alone while Peter was busy with work and studies. However, as soon as Peter returned home, he dedicated all his time and attention to his grandfather. Peter did everything he could to make Raymond's life more comfortable and enjoyable. They shared meals, watched TV, and talked about various topics. As the days passed and the new routine settled, Raymond faced new challenges, especially in the kitchen. Accustomed to having Marissa prepare his meals, he now had to learn to fend for himself. Fortunately, his neighbor Sophie quickly became a constant presence in his life. Sophie, a 22-year-old young woman, lived next door with her mother. She was kind, helpful, and always willing to assist. Over time, Sophie began bringing lunch and breakfast for Raymond, ensuring he didn't go hungry while learning to navigate the kitchen. In addition, Sophie frequently offered her help with other household chores, from cleaning to small repairs around the house. Her warm presence and friendly smile made her a beloved figure in Raymond's life. As their friendship grew stronger, Raymond began to see Sophie as his own granddaughter, a young woman he admired and wanted to protect. He started calling her "my granddaughter" with affection, sharing stories and advice with her as he did with Peter. For Raymond, Sophie was more than just a neighbor. She was a source of comfort and joy in his lonely life. Sophie's presence brought new light into Raymond's life. He no longer felt as alone, as he now had the support of both Peter and the sincere friendship of Sophie. As the days passed, Raymond's life took new directions. Suddenly, a relationship between Peter and Sophie began to blossom, nurtured by Raymond's wise words and gentle gestures, who became a cupid for the two young lovers. Meanwhile, Emily remained absent, lost in her own world, leaving behind the memories of a past that should never have happened. She never sought Raymond again or sent news of how she was doing. As the years went by, age began to weigh on Raymond, leaving visible marks on his body and spirit. Some illnesses began to appear as unwanted reminders of an approaching end. Finally, the time came when Raymond had to face the inevitability of his illnesses and found himself hospitalized. There, he received constant visits from Peter and Sophie, who continued to be his greatest source of support. One day, while lying in his hospital bed, Raymond called Peter for a private conversation. His tired eyes reflected the wisdom acquired over the years, but also a serene tranquility in the face of what was to come. "Peter, my boy," Raymond began with a soft and calm voice, "I feel that my journey in this world is coming to an end. I have lived a full life, filled with love, but now it is time to say goodbye." Peter felt a tightness in his heart upon hearing his grandfather's words, but he knew it was time to face reality. With tears in his eyes, he held Raymond's hand with affection, unable to say the words stuck in his throat. Raymond looked into his grandson's eyes with tenderness, conveying words of comfort and wisdom. "Don't cry, my boy. I am ready to go. I have lived a life full of love and joy, and now it is time to bid farewell." With tears streaming down their faces, Peter held Raymond's hand firmly, feeling the gravity of the moment. "No one knows the time of departure, Grandpa," he murmured between sobs. "I know, my boy, but I feel my time is near," Raymond replied with a gentle smile, his eyes reflecting a serenity that contrasted with his grandson's pain. Peter struggled to contain his emotions, but Raymond's words weighed on his heart like a stone. "Please, Grandpa, don't go. I'm not ready to lose you," Peter pleaded, his voice breaking with sorrow. Raymond held Peter's hand with affection, conveying words of comfort and wisdom. "Cry later, my boy. I had a happy life, a happy father despite everything, and that is all that matters." The two embraced, sharing a moment of tenderness and farewell. Raymond then asked Peter for one last favor, his heart heavy with the weight of parting. "Peter, my boy, I would like you to gather the entire family on the day of the will reading. Please promise me you will do this for me." Peter nodded, unable to speak as the pain of loss weighed on him. "I promise, Grandpa. I will do this for you." A few days later, Raymond passed away quietly, leaving behind a void that even time could not fill. Peter and Sophie were desolate, lost in a sea of sadness and longing. On the day of the will reading, Peter called all family members, including Emily, who showed up in a hurry upon learning that Raymond had left something for her. They gathered around the table, their somber expressions reflecting the gravity of the moment. Raymond's lawyer entered the room with a solemn aura, addressing the gathered family with a grave and controlled voice. He requested their attention as he prepared to read a handwritten letter left by Raymond. With a ceremonial gesture, the lawyer began reading the letter, Raymond's words echoing through the room with deep sincerity and emotion. "My dear children, grandchildren, and friends," Raymond began, his voice filled with genuine emotion. "For years, I have hidden a part of my story, my desires, and my regrets." As the letter continued, Raymond opened his heart, revealing his internal struggles, silent loneliness, and constant longing for connection and love. He expressed his gratitude to Peter and Sophie, recognizing them as the true pillars of his support and happiness in his later years. "I have been fortunate to find love and compassion in the arms of Peter and Sophie," Raymond continued, his eyes shining with gratitude. "They have given me more than I could have ever hoped for, and for that, I will be eternally grateful." Raymond then explained his reasons for announcing the sale of the house and choosing to leave behind material wealth. He wanted to test the true character of his children, revealing that despite their flaws, he still loved them deeply. "In truth, I never lost my savings. The money has always been with me. I invented the sale of the house as an excuse to discover who was truly by my side," he said. After a pause, Raymond continued his confession, his words hanging in the air with emotional weight. "I spent the best years of my life with Peter and Sophie. They taught me the true meaning of love, family, and generosity. And for that, I dedicate my heart, my gratitude, and my inheritance to them." As Raymond's letter progressed, surprising revelations began to unfold, altering the course of the inheritance and provoking a mix of emotions in the room. Raymond, with the calm demeanor of a wise man, explained his decision to divide his inheritance differently among his loved ones, emphasizing that despite the circumstances, his love for all of them remained unshaken. With impressive clarity, he outlined the details of the inheritance division. Half of his $15 million would be given to Peter, along with the house he cherished so much. It was a significant sum, but it was exactly what he deserved, according to Raymond. 20% of the amount would go to charity, while the remaining 30% would be divided among his children, ensuring each received a fair share. However, the biggest surprise was reserved for Sophie and Emily. The young woman who had become like a granddaughter to Raymond would receive his life insurance, valued at 1 million reais, a gesture reflecting the love and gratitude he felt for her and ensuring her financial future. Meanwhile, Emily would receive a key to a bank safe where Raymond kept his precious jewelry, a gift that seemed modest at first but held invaluable wealth. Emily smiled upon hearing her share of the inheritance, convinced she had received a smaller but sufficient portion to ensure she would never have to work again. She could hardly wait to discover the jewelry in the safe, imagining the fortune she was about to inherit. As the room absorbed Raymond's revelations, a sense of surprise and admiration filled the air. The generosity and meticulous care with which he had planned his inheritance revealed the true nature of his character and the depth of his love for those he left behind. Raymond's words were still echoing in the room when Emily left for the bank, her anticipation palpable. She was eager to discover the jewelry she believed to be her inheritance. However, upon opening the safe, she found a bitter and unexpected surprise. Instead of glittering jewels and promises of wealth, there was only a cold cup of coffee accompanied by a letter written in Raymond's hand. The words she read there cut deeper than any knife. "My dear Emily," the letter began, each word a dagger to her heart. "For you, I leave this cold and bitter cup of coffee, just like the love you gave me." Emily's world crumbled around her, tears flooding her eyes, and her heart breaking into 1,000 pieces at the cruel revelation of the man she had once tried to seduce for wealth. Desolate and aimless, she left the bank, unsure of where to go or what to do. The sadness and regret weighed on her like an unbearable burden she didn't know how to carry. Meanwhile, Peter and Sophie continued their lives in the house that once belonged to Raymond, following in the footsteps of the man they loved so much. They kept Raymond's memory alive, remembering the precious moments they spent with him and valuing the legacy of love and generosity he left behind. For Peter and Sophie, the house was not just a place to live but a sanctuary of memories and affection, a constant reminder of the unconditional love Raymond had given them. As the years went by, Raymond's wisdom and values remained with them. In the face of life's challenges, they found strength and inspiration in Raymond's teachings. The most important thing in life, Raymond used to say, is to have people we love and who love us by our side. The rest are just details. With Raymond's memory in their hearts, Peter and Sophie lived their lives with gratitude and joy, embracing every moment with fervor, valuing every smile, hug, and shared memory. Wherever they went, they carried Raymond's spirit with them, spreading kindness and compassion. As time passed, they knew that as long as they had each other and Raymond's memory to guide them, they could face any challenge life threw at them. Thus, the story of love and care Raymond cultivated continued to thrive, illuminating the hearts of those who had the fortune to know him. And as the sun set on the horizon, Peter and Sophie knew they would always keep Mr. Raymond's memory alive in their hearts and be eternally grateful for everything he had done for them.